Good day, everyone. So today in this particular video we are going to be talking about a projectile motion. So the first thing you have to understand is what we mean by kinematics. When we are talking about kinematics, it simply means the study of motion without considering the force causing the motion. So if we're not talking about the kinematics, it can be subclassified into two. We have the kinematics in one dimension. We have the kinematics in two dimensions. So if you're talking about the kinematics in two dimensions, we are going to be talking fully about a projectile motion. So if you're talking about a projectile motion, what is a projectile? A projectile is defined as an object or a body launched into the air and allowed to move on its own or under the influence of what? Gravity. That is simply the definition of a projectile. Then after you've known the definition of a projectile, you also have to know what we mean by a trajectory. A trajectory is the path taken by a projectile motion. The path taken by a projectile body is referred to as what? Trajectory. Now, once we have known the definition of projectile, what a trajectory means, the next thing we have to know now is the examples of projectile motion. What are the examples of projectile motion? The example include shot put, football. When a football is kicked into the air, it is moving in a parabolic manner. So you have to know that projectile body, they move in a parabolic manner, but the path they take is what is referred to as trajectory. So when a ball is kicked into the air, it moves in a parabolic manner. Hence, we can refer it to as a projectile motion. So you also have to know that bullet, spear, arrow, catapult, these are all examples of projectile motion. So since we have said that projectile is talking about the kinematics in two dimensions, then you have to know something, that we can break projectile into two dimensions. The two dimensions we can break projectile to is the x-axis and the what? Y-axis. So for example, if you kicked a ball like this, it will move like this in a parabolic manner. Right there, it will move like this in a parabolic manner. So as it moves like this in this parabolic manner, it is going to be having a particular angle, and this angle is referred to as the angle of projection. That is the angle in which the ball is being kicked. Then we can then trace this up and refer to as a y-axis. We can then trace this down and refer to as what? X-axis. Do you get that? But the force, the velocity with which the ball will be using to move is what we represented as this u, this initial velocity. So this initial velocity can be resolved into the vertical. This initial velocity can also be resolved into the horizontal. If you want to resolve this initial velocity to the vertical, you are going to write it as uy. But if it is to the horizontal, it will be ux. So you have to know that we can have the horizontal direction, we can have the what? Vertical direction. So you have to know that whenever we are talking about a projectile, we must always consider two dimensions, the horizontal and the what? And the vertical. So for the horizontal direction of a projectile body, you have to know that it is not affected by the acceleration due to gravity. Only the vertical direction is affected by what? Acceleration due to gravity. So that's the first thing you have to know. Right there, the horizontal direction is not in any way affected by what? Acceleration due to gravity. Only the vertical direction is affected by what? Acceleration due to gravity. So talking about the horizontal direction, you can have the initial horizontal direction, you can have the final horizontal direction. You can also have the initial vertical direction, you can also have the final vertical direction. But now, if you are talking about the initial velocity can either be the initial velocity for the horizontal direction or the initial velocity for the vertical direction. If you be talking about initial velocity, it is represented as u. Don't forget that initial velocity is represented as u, and the horizontal direction is represented as what? As x. So therefore, your initial horizontal velocity will be represented as what? Ux. And the formula for ux is equal to what? U cos theta. And if it is initial vertical velocity, so since it is initial velocity, it will be represented as u. But if it's not the initial vertical velocity, it will be uy. Y is for the vertical, and the formula for uy, which is initial vertical velocity, is what? U sine theta. We also have the final horizontal velocity. So final velocity is represented as v, but the horizontal is represented as x. So therefore your final horizontal velocity is what? Vx, and the formula for Vx is what? U cos theta. We also have the final vertical velocity. Final velocity is v, the vertical is what? Y. So therefore your final vertical velocity will be what? Vy, and the formula for your Vy is what? U sine theta minus gt. That's the formula. We also have the horizontal distance, Sx. The formula for Sx is ut cos theta. And we also have the vertical distance, Sy. The formula for Sy is what? Ut sine theta minus half gt squared. You have to be used with this horizontal direction formula for the projectile body and the vertical direction formula for the projectile body. So let us look at a typical example. So we have a question here. An arrow is fired with a velocity 40 meters per second at an angle 30 degrees to the horizontal. Calculate the following: initial horizontal velocity, initial vertical velocity, horizontal velocity after 2.5 seconds in air, vertical velocity after 2.5 seconds in air, horizontal distance, vertical distance. So whenever you have a physics question, whenever you have a physics calculation question, the first thing you are expected to do is to identify all the parameters given. That is, all the value given to you in the question, identify them by writing them out, and make sure the angle is to the horizontal. So the angle given to you in the question, whenever there is a projectile question, the angle must always be to the horizontal. You get that? So if the angle that was given here was not to the horizontal, you will need to convert it to the horizontal. That is by minusing the angle from what? 90. So the parameters given to us are initial velocity u, which is 40 meters per second, the angle theta, which is what? 30 degrees. So the angle is already to the horizontal, so we don't need to convert it to the horizontal again. If the angle wasn't to the horizontal, we will need to convert it to the horizontal. Right there. So, but it is already to the horizontal from the question, that we don't need to convert it again. So step 2, identify what you are asked to find. What we are asked to find, we have to identify them. The first thing we have to find there is the initial horizontal velocity, that is ux. The next one is initial vertical velocity, that is uy. The next thing is horizontal velocity after 2.5 seconds in air. That horizontal velocity after 2.5 seconds in air simply means the final horizontal velocity. And also we have the vertical velocity after 2.5 seconds in air, 2.5 seconds in air, and that one also means the final velocity. It simply means the final velocity for the vertical. That will mean by what? Vertical velocity after 2.5 seconds. After 2.5 seconds is talking about final. Right there. So that's that. And we also have the horizontal distance, that is the Sx. We have the vertical distance, that is the what? Sy. So whenever you are given a question and the parameters given to you is just the velocity and the angle, and you were asked to calculate any of these, then these are the formulas you should be applying. So if you are asked to calculate the initial horizontal velocity, you will use this formula: ux is equals to u cos theta. Your u is 40, your theta is 30, then 40 cos 30, that is 40 times 0.86, and that will give you this. If it is uy, it will be u sine theta is equals to 40 sine 30, and that's equals to 40 times 0.5, it gives you this. If it is vx, which is the final vertical velocity after 2.5 seconds here, that simply means the final velocity, right? Final horizontal velocity, we are going to be using vx, and the formula for vx is also u cos theta, that is 40 cos 30, it gives you this. Also your vy will be u sine theta minus gt. If you substitute all the parameters, it gives you this. And we also have the horizontal distance. If you are asked to calculate the horizontal distance after 2.5 seconds in air, then the formula for your Sx, this means horizontal. S is distance, X is horizontal distance. This one is vertical distance. So the formula is ut cos theta. You will substitute all the parameters. Your Sx, which is the horizontal distance, will give you 86.6 meters. And if you are to calculate the vertical distance, you have to use this formula. And if you substitute all the parameters, you are going to get what? 18.75. So let's have to do that. If you notice this, you see that your Vy is what? Is negative. Yes, it's because what? It's because we are talking about the final velocity. You know, as it is as it is coming to the final, it's going to be what? Decelerating. So that is what? That is that about that. So whenever you have this type of question, just know the formula you have to use and substitute the formula, the parameters into the formula, and make sure that the angle given to you is to the horizontal. So let's talk about the forms of projectile motion. If we're talking about the forms of projectile motion, we have three forms of projectile motion. The form one, the first form is an object projected upward from the ground at an angle theta to the horizontal. The second form is an object projected horizontally from a height, and the third one is an object projected upward from a height at an angle theta to the horizontal. But for the sake of this class, for this particular video, we are going to be talking about the form 1 and form 2. So let's quickly talk about the first form. The first form we are going to be talking about is an object projected horizontally from a height. Let's say you are on a particular height and you are now throwing an object down. Let's say you are on a roof, right there, or you are like on the top of a tree. You do not throw something down from the top. That is talking about an object projected horizontally from a height, right there. And in this case, you don't need to stress yourself too much. You just have to understand two particular formulas. The first one is that T is equals to square root 2h over g, and the second one is that R is equals to ut. So if the value of T is square root 2h over g, then the value of your R will now equals what? U square root 2h over g. So these are the formulas that you're supposed to know. So what does the T represent? The T represents the time. The R represents the horizontal distance. So whenever you see R simply represent the what? Horizontal distance. While the H represent the what? Represent the height. So that is that. You have to know this formula. And the joy of physics is that whenever you have a particular question, you have to understand what the question is asking you to calculate. So for example, they say a ball is thrown horizontally from a height. So this simply means that this particular question here, it is talking about the form 1 of a projectile motion. That is an object that is thrown horizontally from a height. So in that case, this simply means that you have to use any of these three formulas from a height 30 meters above the ground with an initial speed of 20 meters per second. Calculate the horizontal distance traveled by the ball when it hits the ground. So you were asked to calculate the horizontal distance traveled. Don't forget that whenever you are asked to calculate the horizontal distance, it simply means the what? The R. So the step 1 is write out all the parameters given to you. You were given the height 30 meters, initial speed 20 meters per second. You were asked to calculate the horizontal distance, and you were given the G to be what? 10 meters per second square. Then your step 2 will be that you use the formula R is equals to U root 2h over g. So whenever you are asked to calculate the horizontal distance, then you have to calculate the R, and the formula for your R will either be this or this. So if in the question you are given the initial speed and the time, you have to use the second formula. But if you are given the height, the initial speed, and the acceleration due to gravity, you have to use this formula. So using this formula, we are going to substitute all the parameters given to us. Your initial speed U is 20, your H is 30, and your G is 10. Substitute everything inside here. So 2 times 30 divided by 10 will give us 6. 20 times root 6 will give us what? 48.99. So this simply means that the horizontal distance for this question is what? 48.99. So that's how to do it. Then let's talk about the next form of a projectile body. So the next form of a projectile body we are going to be talking about is an object projected upward from the ground at an angle theta to the horizontal. What do we mean by that is that we have an object on the board. For example, if we have a ball on the floor, we just kicked the ball into the air. We play the ball into the air. Do you get that? That's an example of this particular aspect. So here we will talk about the time to reach the maximum height, the time of flight, the maximum height reached, the horizontal range. So if we are talking about the time of flight, the maximum height reached, the horizontal range, then we have to understand that typically, let's say we have the ball at this point. This is the ball. We kick the ball like this. We kick the ball into the air. So the ball will come to land at another spot here. We can then trace this like this. We can trace this like this. And we can also trace this like this. So this is the ball. The ball was kicked into the air. As this ball was kicked into the air, it comes to land at this point. So we can then complete our graph like this, This will be the vertical, this will be the what? Horizontal. And this will now be the angle of projection. So this is the ball that was being kicked. So if we are talking about the time to reach the maximum height, this simply means as it goes like this, it reaches a maximum height here. The time it takes this object to move from this point of projection to the maximum height before it starts descending, that time is what we refer to as what? Time to reach the maximum height. And the formula for time to reach the maximum height is u sine theta over g. We also have what we refer to as the time of flight. This is the time required for the projected body to return to the same level from which it was projected. Now, firstly, you have to understand something, that there is a difference between time of flight and there is a difference between time to reach the maximum height. If we are talking about the time to reach the maximum height, this is the time it takes from this point to the highest point here. Right there. But we are talking about the time of flight. We are talking about the time it takes from this point to this point and the time it takes from this point back to the horizontal plane. So the time of flight is talking about the total time it takes the body to move from this point to the point back. That is the time taken by the object to be projected and to come back to the projection plane. So that's why we say that the time taken by a projected body to go up is the same time taken to come back to the plane of projection. This simply means that the time it will take the object to move from this initial point to the final point will be the same time it will take this object to move from this final point back to the initial point. If it takes the object from here to here 2 seconds, it will also take the object from here to here 2 seconds. Do you get that? So the time taken to go up will be the same time taken to what? To come back. So that is why we say that the time of flight is equals to 2t. Right there, the time of flight is equals to what? 2t. Those were this small t represent the time to reach the maximum height. So the time of flight will be equals to what? 2t, and that's equals to the time to reach the maximum height and the time to come back from the maximum height to the plane. So your time of flight t will just equals to 2u sine theta over g. Don't forget that your t is what? U sine theta over g. So that will be 2u sine theta over g. We also have the maximum height. Whenever we are talking about the maximum height, this is talking about the maximum height reached. This is your maximum height. And the formula for that is u square sine square theta over g. You have to know this formula for maximum height offhand. And another thing you have to notice is that your maximum height is actually maximum at 90 degrees. Your maximum height is maximum at what? 90 degrees. We also have what we refer to as the horizontal range. If we are talking about the horizontal range, it's just talking about the horizontal distance. So this simply means that whenever they ask you to calculate the range, it simply means horizontal distance. Another name or another term for range is what we refer to as what? Horizontal distance. And this simply means the distance from here to here. The distance from here to here is the what? Horizontal distance. So, and the formula for your horizontal range is that r is equals to what? U square sine 2 theta over g. This formula for your horizontal range. So you must not confuse the horizontal range formula with the maximum height formula. And you have to know that the horizontal range is maximum at angle 45 degrees. So let us look at a typical example to round up this video. Now we have a particular example here. A ball is thrown up with a speed of 10 meters per second at angle of 50 degrees to the horizontal. Find the height to which the ball rises, the time taken to reach the maximum height, the time of flight, the horizontal distance. You see, whenever you have a question like this, it depends on the exam you are doing. If you are doing WAEC, they can ask you all these questions. But if the exam you are doing is like a CBT exam, they can only ask you any of these questions. So that is why you have to know how to solve everything. So let's start. Whenever you have a calculation question, do not forget what I told you. Once you have a calculation question, always write out the parameters. The first thing you should do is write out the what? Parameters. So write out the parameters and make sure the angle given to you is to the horizontal. The angle must be to the horizontal. If the angle is to the vertical, you must convert it to the horizontal by minusing the angle from what? 90. So your u is 10 meters per second. Your theta is what? 50 degrees to the horizontal. Then identify what you are asked to calculate. What they ask you to calculate, identify them. So you ask to calculate the height, the time taken to reach maximum height, the time of flight, the horizontal distance. So that's why we wrote all this. So once you've written all this, don't disturb yourself. Just remember the formula. The formula for height is what? U square sine square theta over 2g. Substitute all the parameters, you will get your final answer. The formula for time taken to reach the maximum height is actually u sine theta over g. Substitute the parameters, you will get your final answer. And the formula for the time of flight, so don't forget, whenever we're talking about time of flight, so the formula will be 2u sine theta over g. Substitute the parameters, you will get this. But remember that your time of flight is actually equals to 2t. Since your time of flight equals 2t, instead of you using this formula, Since we have calculated our t before, we can just say t is equal to 2t. That will be 2 times our t is 0.766. 0.766. We get our answer. And we have to calculate the horizontal distance covered. The horizontal distance covered, that is r, will equal to u square sine 2 theta over g. Substitute the parameters, then you get your final answer. So that is how to do this projectile question. And remember what I told you, if you need more questions to solve on this projectile question, on this projectile topic, send me a DM on WhatsApp and or drop your comment in the comment section. I'm going to drop you more questions to practice. So thank you for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and please like, comments, and share to your friends and family. Thank you.